Listen, today I'm very, very honored that I get to introduce our guest speaker, Dan T. Cathy. We're blessed. We're blessed because today we're going to complete the education of these men and women here with some great remarks by a person who understands what it means to serve others. Mr. Cathy is a great friend of Georgia Military College, and he's a huge advocate for education here in the state of Georgia and across the United States. In fact, if you're not aware of it, the entire reason Georgia Military College exists in Fayetteville today is because of Mr. Cathy. So Mr. Cathy, thank you very much, sir. I could tell you about his 4 honorary doctorate degrees, talk about his love of music. I could talk about him riding motorcycles or flying small jet airplanes. But if you're like my family, it's more about him being the chairman and CEO of Chick-fil-A, one of our nation's largest family-owned businesses, where he's worked since he was the age of 9. So that's really about all I think he knows when he gets up here today. But here's something special about him. Mr. Cathy, Dan as he tells everybody to call him, is somebody who understands what it means about serving others. If you were to ask my children, I've got 2 still in high school, tell me about Chick-fil-A, they immediately say what? That chicken sandwich. Or they tell me about them great nuggets, because that's what they know. But right behind it, my kids will say, no matter what Chick-fil-A we walk into, there's incredible customer service. And it's always clean. A small story, when we were talking about opening the campus here in Fayetteville, I came up one day and Mr. Cathy was kind enough to take me out to lunch. And as we were leaving this place where we had eaten lunch downtown, we passed some trash on the ground. I saw Mr. Cathy take about a 5-foot deviation and go over there and pick that trash up, pick it up and carry it back to his truck when we got into his truck. And I said, you pick up trash? He goes, if I don't, who will? And if I don't make a difference, who's going to make a difference? And right then it told me, we will love to partner and be a part of being here in Fayetteville with this campus we're about to open with people like Dan T. Cathy. Mr. Cathy, it's an incredible honor for us to have you here today. If you all would, please welcome Dan to the podium.
Well, thank you, President Caldwell and faculty and staff and students and parents, and indeed an honor for me to be here with you. Let me just give a word of caution that if you end up picking up trash, it doesn't work too good on date nights because my wife won't hold hands with me once I've been out picking up papers. So I try to keep some handy wipes or some other things there to kind of sanitize my hands, because after 45 years, after having met my wife when I was just 6 years old in elementary school, I could take all the romance I could take. And so I enjoy that holding hands part, and it's a good thing to pick up trash. You make the environment cleaner, stretches your back, and in our line of work, business is always about picking up. So it's an honor for me to be here with you and to speak to all these students. We have about 100,000 young adults between the ages of 17 and 22 that work in our restaurants across the country. I teach Sunday school and taught Sunday school for the 11th and 12th grade youth departments here at this very church for 17 years. So, and also played in the church orchestra, sitting right back here playing the trumpet. So I'm right at home to be here, not only among the students, but also in this incredible, wonderful place of worship. In just a few moments, we're going to go through one of the great ceremonies in civilization as we pass the baton. This is a very important time, and I'll be giving a baton to the graduates here in just a few moments. But it's also about expressions of lasting memory. Maybe I would challenge you today, perhaps parents, perhaps faculty, perhaps even students may have some parting words that you would like to give to maybe some of your fellow students, maybe even to a parent or to a loved one that's here who's been especially supportive of you. Last words are very important. I had the privilege of kneeling at my dad's bedside some 5 years ago, almost now, as I had the final conversation with my dad. that I'd grown up with obviously all my life, that I had worked with all my life as well, since, as he was mentioned, since I was a young child at the age of 9, pulling gum out from underneath the tables at the Dorf House in Fayetteville and singing songs to customers and so forth. He not only was my father, but he was my mentor. He was my boss, and on and on. It was our custom as a child that he would tuck us in at bed at night, and we would say our prayers together, and those roles were reversed. Some just 2 weeks before he passed away, he had a final conversation. We had our prayers. I kind of tucked in the sheets around him kind of tight like he used to do me as a child. And the last words that I heard from my father was this: Dan, take good care of yourself. And it was a common expression that he would have with visitors and even family members as would come and visit as we'd be out the door. But little did either one of us realize that it would be the last conversation that we had. Those words of advice, those words of encouragement. Dan, take good care of yourself. I hope that sometime today you might have a final word of appreciation, maybe a final word of encouragement that you can give. As my dad would say, you can recognize somebody that needs encouragement. Do you know how? If they're breathing. So perhaps you're sitting next to someone today that can use a word of encouragement. I want to give you an encouragement that today you're going to walk off this stage with graduates with a diploma. That diploma may go in a drawer. It may go on your wall. It may be going into a place of safekeeping. But I want to recommend 2 things for you to hang on to as you continue your journey today. 2 things that are very close to me. 2 items that I keep very handy with me at all times in all circumstances. One is this little cell phone right here. I want to encourage all of you to really embrace the fact that we're moving into tomorrow. Yesterday is the past, and this little cell phone represents all the things about the future that you are all about. You're all about leaning forward. You're all about today and tomorrow. You're all about the next generation. We are so excited to celebrate this incredible accomplishment for you because we know that you're going to be defining the future for all of us, be it social media, all these wonderful tools that we have with film and entertainment. Not far from here is Pinewood Atlanta Studios that many of you are familiar with. It's all about dramatic changes that are going on in every industry, certainly in education and as well as entertainment and distribution channels. We have to know these tools. We cannot be oblivious to it. We've got to embrace all of it. We all need to have a Twitter account and Facebook, and we all need to get online. We know that email and text messaging and on. It's a remarkable world. And this reminds us of the tremendous amount of change that's taking place in our world today. Every industry is facing this. Jack Welch of General Electric said that when the rate of external change exceeds the rate of internal change, disaster is imminent. And how do you keep a 72-year-old family business at the top of its game, competing with Panera Bread and McDonald's and Burger King and all the others that are out there? You lean forward into the future. You redefine yourself. You race change and embrace change. You lead change. You model change. You live change. You're living and leaning forward into tomorrow. Graduates, I encourage you to continue to be the student that you are today, to be a lifelong student of change. Redefine who you are, not whose you are, but redefine perpetually who you are. Recently, we reopened a Chick-fil-A restaurant down in Noonan. As I was walking through there, I noticed this little red name tag that said underneath it said in training. Now, I've been to a lot of Chick-fil-A grand openings. We opened up 5 new restaurants just on Thursday of this week. I'd never seen the in training attached to the name tag. I said, what's that all about? I said, well, this is all of our new employees here at the new Truett's Chick-fil-A in Noonan, and we wanted to make sure that the customers knew that these were brand new employees. And I said, and besides that, if they make a mistake, maybe the customers will be more patient with them. I said, I'll take about 5 of those to put on my name tags, if it would please. And sure enough, if I didn't have this robe on and I was at the office or a Chick-fil-A restaurant, you'd see my in training. It says 48 years of service, but it has in training because I'm still in training. I'm a lifelong learner. But I'd share with us something else that we need to have as well. If this is all that we have in our life, we don't have significance or meaning or purpose, and we can get misguided. So I also recommend that this little New Testament here that I hold in my left hand also should be equally embraced, because this is my life every day as I lead Chick-fil-A. It's about leaning forward into the future with new tools to redefine an incredibly changing economy and industry that we're in. You know, what would Chick-fil-A drive-thru be today without iPads and our app, our Chick-fil-A One app that you can pre-order and skip the line, by the way, everybody. So if you need some boring speakers up here and you want to go on the App Store, you can download the Chick-fil-A app and skip the line and save you some time. But so this is a big part of my life. But this also is a big part of my life, because as President Caldwell mentioned, we're very known for our service. Where does our service mantra come from? It comes from Matthew chapter 5, verse 41. Jesus himself said, when someone asks you to go 1 mile, go with them the 2nd mile. Why do we have fresh flowers on our tables? Why do we say my pleasure? Why do we have fresh ground pepper? Because we realize that the 1st mile is all about a transaction. But the 2nd mile, when we meet people with honor, dignity, and respect, it's about a relationship. And we want to have a relationship with our customers. Why? Because it's a part of our corporate purpose to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that's entrusted to us, and to have a positive influence on all who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. Your life is about having meaning and influence on society and culture that's desperately in need of the skills that you've received here from Georgia Military College. I close with this story, and I'm going to share with you about this baton in just a moment. But when I was a child, I jumped in the Chevrolet station wagon that our family had and drove up I-85 and 75 up to Burlington, North Carolina for a grand opening. Paul Anderson was going to be our special guest. He was a native of Toccoa, Georgia. He was the world athlete that set the Olympic record for weightlifting, won the gold medal, and he was going to be our guest. And as he would do feats of strength in front of our Chick-fil-A restaurant, my little brother and I would be running around with samples of free Chick-fil-A as the crowd would gather there, almost like a circus act, if you will. We knocked on the door to ask him to go to breakfast, and he says, well, y'all go ahead, I'll come back and join you later. As we opened the door to that hotel room, we saw Paul Anderson, the world's strongest man, sitting there in his chair with nothing on but his underwear. I don't know if you've ever seen the world's strongest man with nothing on but his underwear, but it's quite a sight to behold. His chest was about as big as this podium here, this lectern, and he did not have a neck. His head just sat on top of these massive shoulders. You know, as he moved around, he wore these polyester suits, because nothing was off the rack with Paul Anderson. And as we walked away, we realized that we had interrupted a little quiet time that he was having, as he had this tiny, looked very tiny to me, and this big, massive hand that he had, this tiny little testament. And at the age of 17, to realize that the world's strongest man could not live life apart from being disciplined to study God's Word, to abide in God's Word, as much as we find ourselves abiding in the world of Microsoft and Apple and emails and text messages that are endless. So hang on to this cell phone. Lead us in change in a new world, but also hang on to truths and principles. Can I give you this word of encouragement, please? Date the methods and marry the mission. Now, in closing, I'm going to give you one of these batons. And succession is all about a really great baton handoff. If you've been in track, as you perhaps saw in the Olympics or television, you realize that the baton handoff is one of the most important exchanges that happens in a relay race. I'm a distance runner. I've run marathons. I got 4 miles in this morning because I love Chick-fil-A milkshakes, and it takes me about 4 miles to have a medium-sized cookies and cream milkshake, by the way. But so I had to do a little work about the baton handoff. I called a coach in Colorado Springs that coaches for the Olympics, and I said, tell me what's important about a handoff and exchange. He says, well, one thing is that the arms of the runners in the handoff have to be perfectly in sync. They have to be together. It's a seamless event. I hope that as you accept this baton, that you will take it and all the responsibilities that it carries with it, and that you'll stay in stride, that you will not break stride, that you'll continue your educational pursuit, and to continue to be a lifelong learner. The other recommendation he had is that it's very important that the person taking the baton takes the baton out of the hand of the person that's handing it off. If you just kind of hold it out there and they don't take it out of your hand, it dramatically increases the chances that it might drop. Can you imagine how awful it is to train a lifetime and to be perhaps even in the Olympics, and hear someone across the field drop the baton that you worked so hard to try to pick up? Let me just drop this. I wish we had a wooden floor up here to make this acoustically more dramatic, but I'll do the best that I can here. But this is what it sounds like. Doesn't make much noise up here in this carpet, but if this was a tile floor wood, I'm going to tell you, it'd make a lot of noise. It's the death call. It sounds horrible. It's a killer to hear somebody drop the baton. And all we have to do is open up the newspaper, turn on the TV. We see what happens when people drop the baton. It's terribly disappointing. So I want to encourage you that as you take this baton, it says, be remarkable. And I want to encourage you, live a remarkable life. Live a tweetable life. Live the one and only life that you have. I pray to God that you make a difference in society and culture, that you take this baton, run with courage, don't drop the baton. And my last word of advice, if you would please, is remember to eat more chicken. Thank you very much.